In today's lesson, we recapped on last lesson and we had to answer some questions first, and these were the questions we had to answer. So the first one we had to answer was, what character development exercise have you explored? So first off, we've explored Stanislavski techniques and looking at if your character is a table, chair, or door. And this just helps to recognise what status your character is in, like, during different scenes. So I know now that my character starts off as a chair. She's quiet to herself, and then throughout the stages she then turns into a door near the end. So you see the transition of her, like the progressing throughout the play. We've also looked at Laban and looking at different dynamics, and this is vocally as well as physically. So how we use our gestures and how we use our body language, and also how we use our voice in different scenes. I've used trial and error to figure out which dynamics would go better and what like table, chair, or I am during different scenes as well. The next question we had to answer was, how have they supported your progress? I think just using trial and error, it just helps to understand how you want to deliver your character and how you have an understanding of the character as well, and what's going on in the scenes, and making that judgment on what your character is will just help you when it comes to like the rehearsals. So then you don't have to figure about it in the rehearsals, you can just start experimenting during the rehearsal time. Next one is how a story is told effectively within plays. This is done by storytelling skills. So you, as an actor, you need to make sure you tell a story. And so this is when the audience can understand what's going on, because there wouldn't be a play otherwise if you weren't trying to create a story and get something across to an audience member. The next question we were asked was, what are you going to focus on within scene development? So as an actor, I want to show a progression of my character. So I want to show that she does change throughout the whole play, and that there is a significant change. So she is at first quite calm and collective, and then at the end scene she is a bit more mad and a bit wow and like in your face kind of thing. Next question, how can you support your peers? I think as all of us are very close and we like to support each other, and I think the way that we mainly do it is just by the feedback we give them. We're not trying to be mean to each other, it's just supportive criticism. So it's just feedback on how we can develop. So say if there's a bit that wasn't that good, we can say, well, it wasn't that good, but how about you try doing this, that, and the other. And I think overall we like getting that feedback from our peers, because we all have different interpretations of something. So just because you have one doesn't mean that everyone else's is wrong. You might end up liking that interpretation, so it's nice to have feedback. The next question we were given was, how might you want your peers to support you? I just want the general feedback as well to help me develop within my scene. So like I said, if they have a different interpretation to me, I might end up liking that interpretation and start thinking about how I can use that as well, and how it could help develop my character and how I develop relationships within the scene and how I tell a story. After our recap, we then went on to go and rehearse and perform what we did last week. So Andy and Elliot went over scene 1, and these are the notes that I wrote down for their scene. So I think Elliot needs to listen more, so then his reaction skills are more clear. So it seems sometimes that it's quite forced and he's not listening out to what's being said by Andy. So if he listens more, then the reaction will come more natural. With Andy's character playing Josh, I think it's just amazing, because it's quite you can tell that he's awkward and quite confused with what's going on, and that whole scene is supposed to be awkward, because Josh is wearing a dress, which isn't normal for a teenage boy to wear a dress, and he's just trying to understand, so you can get the awkwardness with it. Also, I just think now they need to think more about props. So make sure you make the setting, but as well as there's eyeliner and lipstick involved within the scene. So make sure you get those props as soon as possible so that you can start practicing, because it takes a task to put makeup on. So you need to learn how to do that before you get on stage, and Andy needs to feel comfortable wearing it, as well as being able to put it on a stage and take it off beforehand, and just getting it ready to put it on, and then when you're off stage, quickly take it off. And the next one we looked at was Beth, Scott and Ashley, who was being Green, James Dean and Danny. Beth, your mannerisms are good, they look more manly. You can see there's a scene, I think it's scene 4, where she says that she's always folding her arms, and she always does that, and it's nice that Beth is still thinking about that during throughout the scene. So when it comes to scene 4, and then she says, I'm always folding my arms, have you noticed that? That we have actually noticed that you are folding your arms in the scene. The reaction skills are nice. You could tell that with Dean and Danny, and it's very awkward and the tension's there, and that you were really close. So the relationships during that scene is really nice. The only thing that I put here which needs developing on is, Scott, you need to think about your wandering eyes. So make eye contact with Beth when you're talking to Beth, and also when you're not, think about where you're standing and where your eye focus is. So when Danny comes in, it's supposed to be like James Dean's disappeared and he's back to the poster. So think about where you're standing in that scene and who you're looking at. And the next scene that we looked at was mine and Frankie's. And the feedback that we were given was Frankie's line where it says, "Is it cute?" or "Are they cute?" It's not that natural, so we need to think more how you would actually say it within real life, and if you're having that actual talk with one of your mates, how you would actually say it. The reactions are good. Good use of hand gestures. I had good feedback from my character as well, saying that I took on Amy well. You could see the relationship as well, and that how we were supposed to be mates. Vocal clarity is good, and also that we're performing at different levels as well. So we start off as in I come in first and I'm standing up, and then Laura's sitting down, and then it's I'm sitting back down again, and then at another stage we stand back up. Next we watch Claudia and Lewis, who's the mum and dad. There's a lot of head movements that Claudia does when she talks, and it's just when she's trying to get across, like a point across, and she's nodding her head, and it's very distracting. So we need to make that. I like how they break down the fourth wall and they look out to the audience, and like they're talking to the audience, which is nice. But I think they need to make eye contact with the audience first and make like a focus point. Facials were good. There was sometimes a lot of fidgeting with jackets. Stay neutral if you're going to be looking out into the audience, and don't fidget. And overall, it just needs a little bit more energy. We then did development exercises looking at action in the lines. So this was just we did our scene, but we did it with no movement, with no verbal, and then we did actions over the top. So it was like a silent scene. I think this just helps. It just gets you more aware of what gestures you want to use in the scene and how you're going to tell the story with your body language and your gestures, because as people, we actually use about 85% of our body language to tell what we're feeling and how we get a story across. So we need to think more about not being less static in stage and using our body. How did it develop the piece? It just helps it be more natural and less static. So because we actually talk a lot with our hands, I know that I'm doing it a lot when I do my blogs as well. So think more about doing it in the scene and being less static. In today's lesson, we also started to block scene 1 and scene 2. So scene 1 is Josh and Kyle, and Josh is telling Kyle how he feels about Dean becoming a boy now, and like it's gone awkward and he don't know what to do and he's a bit scared. And scene 2 is when Dean is finally entered and you've seen do you like this transition and now becoming a boy, so he walks on stage and he's putting on the boy's clothes. You see him have this conversation with James Dean, which is like his imaginary friend and the person he can like confides in. And then Danny's entered and then you see the relationship with Danny. When we weren't doing these scenes, we were learning our lines on the side as well. But it was nice because we are doing our play in the round that we would sit in the corners. So when we every now and again we'd look at what they were doing and see how it'd be set, and then it gives you ideas of how you want to perform. So we need to think more about performing like in a cross so people can see because they're going to be at the sides. I think my strength for today's lesson was just exploring gestures and actions within the silent scene. So it just helps it to become more natural and less static within the scenes. I think my weakness would be, I think me and Frankie, we do have a relationship in the scene, but it's not fully there. Like, I feel like some characters aren't actually there. We need to develop the characters more, so then we can develop the relationship. But I feel like once we start going over them a lot more, then the relationships will come over time.